raise up your hand. Today they have job to do. Oh, don't worry. You will be able to figure things out. So for today, we'll be looking at how to productionize ML models, and so far as shaping them is concerned. And so a little bit about me. My name is Murah, and I'm currently a postdoc engineer at BYR. This is NSS. If you want to know why, you can see me after here. And the rest are all community activities. And so if you need anything concerning joining these communities, you can also hit me up. So let's get started. How many of you have trained a model before? It shouldn't be anything complex. Maybe a simple model. Some regression, classification, task. How many? Oh, raise up your hand. Oh, there's not here. You will take it to batch. Just give me your attention, okay? Please, I'm only seeing my guy's hand. Oh, okay. And how many of you have tried deploying the model that you trained? Only you. Like, have you deployed your model before? That model that you were able to train on before? You did? Yes, and so this is the thing. There are lots of ways we can be able to train our models, right? But for the purposes of this workshop, there's a way that I've been using, and it's helping me a lot so far as building application is concerned. Because when you look at, I'll give you a Google Colab, you will see the things that I'm talking about. One thing you need to look out for when you are deploying your ML models and you are integrating them into your web application, one thing you need to look at is latency. Like this, I don't know how many times I should mention it. So the point is, you don't want a situation where you want to make calls to your API calls to your model, and your model is not responding on time. When that happens, you know the repercussions. The then becomes to the people who are using your web application start complaining, and you are losing customers at that point. So we want to make sure that when you are deploying your model, you are looking for situation, latency, and other things that I'll touch on later in this workshop. So another thing you need to look out for is that if you tell a customer, you tell a normal person who doesn't know anything about tech, who doesn't know anything about websites, and it's like, oh, you use AI to do this, you use some machine learning model, then you just be throwing technical jargons to the person who doesn't know tech. You realize that the person gets confused, and at that point, the communication is not there. So we want to try and make sure that we are turning our ML models into what? ML solutions. Please, you get it? Yeah. So if for nothing at all, if you not listen to me for this whole workshop, one thing you should put at the back of your mind is that when you are building your ML models, you want to make sure that you are turning them into what? ML what? Good. So this like a data set that you have that you want to train your model on, right? And then you feed it into an ML algorithm. So for those who said they've trained models before, you know the few algorithms that you've used to train the model on. And then it becomes a model on its own. So for example, when you're doing deep learning, there's something called neural network. So you are making sure that you have an algorithm that matches the data sets that you have, and it will turn to a neural network. And that's what is able to do whatever task that you want it to do. But there are three things you need to put at the back of your mind. from now on, don't be like this guy, this developer, that thinks that, oh, I've built the best model ever in the world, and you expect people to understand the model that you've done. No. Nobody cares about the processes you use to train your model on and deploy them in the long run. But then, be the developer that will want to integrate them into web applications. Now, AI is a common thing now. Even those who don't know how to, those who are not into tech, sorry to say, when you go to the market women, when they open their smartphone, anytime you mention AI, what comes into their mind? Who can guess? Yeah, my guy. Exactly. So if you were mentioning anything else apart from ChatGPT, you see that the person gets confused. So we want to make sure that when we are delivering our ML solutions, when we deploy them, you don't want situations where you overcomplicate stuff, which will affect the way you also build your applications in the long run. You understand? So remember, always be the developer that will want to integrate these ML solutions into your application. That is, if there is a need for you to integrate AI in your application that you are building. And so we want to ask, how can we deploy our ML solutions? There are lots of ways, but for purposes of this tutorial, there are just some few steps. So after you save the model, you send it to whatever framework that you want to write your APIs on. And in this case, yes, fast API. I know my boss will attack me after a year because I'm only using Django REST, but forgive me, I'm used to fast API, you understand? So you can use Django to write your APIs after you save the model, right? It will work perfectly, you understand? So when the user gives a request, your model that was saved and you are using to write your API, it will do the processing for you behind the scene, and then the results that the model got for you will be integrated into your response. So think of it this way: how many of you have written APIs before? Not integrating APIs, I mean creating your own API. You are not getting it. Oh, how many of you have written APIs before in the first place? Oh, no one. They're not in my boss. I'm talking to those who want to. So don't worry. When we get to the demo part, I'll actually show you what APIs are all about. It's not any big deal. And even apart from deploying your own ML solution, you'll be able to write a simple hello world API. So let's continue. Then when you are done writing the API, you want to make sure that if I send my application to Julius, when he runs the application, every package that I use works on this machine. So that's where containerization comes in. And we all know Docker. So Docker will just pull all those things in an image, and then I can give that to Julius, and Julius can be able to run it on his machine, and it will install the packages and then all the requirements that are inside the application for it to work, and also be able to deploy the model itself. And then the last step, which is to deploy them. So after you put them in a container, you put it on Docker Hub. So Docker Hub is like GitHub, your GitHub repository. So once you put it in an image, you just push it to Docker Hub, you understand? So once you push to Docker Hub, you will just create a tag, and that tag can be used to you can use to put it in any of the cloud services like AWS, Google Cloud Platform. We have DigitalOcean, any cloud platform of your choice. But you know, there's this thing that I always don't understand about developers. When they hear cloud or deploy anything to cloud, the first that comes to mind is AWS. I asked them why. They are not able to ask. Even yesterday, I was asking a colleague of mine. He's not able to give me an answer. He said, "No, why? No, I can't be spending that amount like that, plenty money to just deploy a simple thing, and I'll just leave it. There are no close instance. Then I'll just wake up from bed. Then they'll bill me like some $10,000. Oh, please. It's not, I don't have this with AWS guys, but I mean, you should be able to explain why I'm using AWS. Sometimes I'll sit down and I'll just be listening to those who are saying that they use AWS, and I ask them what do you use AWS for? What are the instances that you use to run your whole application? Now, like, tell me, you should have used another cloud platform for it. But because it's AWS, you want to use AWS. Fine, we'll use AWS and maybe Google Cloud Platform. So that was just by the way. Once you have your image pushed into Docker Hub, you can be able to deploy them into any of the cloud platforms of your choice. So for this demo, for this workshop, I trained a CNN model to recognize handwritten digits. So from 0 to 9, you understand? So CNN is part of the deep learning family. But don't worry, we are just trying to train a model and then we save it. So once I take you through the steps, you'll be able to, even if you don't get some of the things in deep learning, at least you'll be able to do some little research, little GPT, little Claude, to get where I'm coming from. So once you save the model, this is what we'll do. We'll create a predict API. So what I mean by predict API is I'm naming my API predict to be able to do certain things for me with the model that I see. And then I'll create the image for that API. And then once I have that, I can push to Docker Hub. And once I push to Docker Hub, as I said in the earlier slide, you can deploy it to any cloud platform of your choice. The AWS niggas. You can deploy it to AWS. Yeah, niggas. So before we start everything right, there's this thing I tell people when they are trying to learn something new or something that they've not done before. Don't be like the most genius program, the most genius engineer in the world. Whatever, even Jeff, the big tech guys, they still Google. So once you don't understand anything, don't lock yourself up in your room and say that I don't understand and I'll just be there. Yeah, you can do that too. But before, and that's why we leverage on these communities. That's why communities is also important. So if you have a question, before you ask your question, you have to Google first to get what you were able to find in any of the solutions that people have implemented, right? Before you try all the solutions online, if it doesn't work, that's where you come to the community. You just come and say that too. I was trying to create a Docker image, but it wasn't working. What did you do to be able to solve that problem and it's still becoming a problem, it's still becoming worse? So that's where communities come in. And if you are not active in the Bible community, WhatsApp, please, I'm begging you, please do. It will really help you a lot. Yeah, I know those who do, they still that yes, Stack Overflow is there. But please, I want to mention this thing. Stack Overflow is not there. In fact, was it last week? I was writing a microservice for an integration that we were supposed to do at work. Trust me, there was this function I put in Claude that you see if it can refine it for me. It did everything perfect. I ran the thing, it's not working. I was like, hey, what's happening? That's when the Holy Spirit came in. So I was fine debugging. Then I realized that like Claude was just over engineering the thing. So I was like, okay, let me use the old code that I wrote. The error that I just copied the error, put it on Google. It took me to Stack Overflow straight. The answer was in Stack Overflow. So imagine I started from Stack Overflow and I got the answer first. It would have saved me a lot of time. So please, even though AI works in most cases, but please, never leave Stack Overflow, I beg you. It will really help you. There are lots of answers to your questions if you literally take time to look through what people have done and be able to apply them to the problems that you want to solve. And once again, if you still want to use AI, you can still use AI. But I'm doing some small promotion. Please use Claude, don't use GPT. GPT is trash. Yeah, you can have that conversation after the session. So yes, so those who have their laptops, you can you can either scan the code, the QR code, or you enter this address, the website to be able to access the Google Colab. But for those who didn't bring their laptops, I'll be explaining things bit by bit. So in case you get lost, you can please prompt me. Like just raise up your hand so that we can learn together. Okay, so please scan the code. Okay, so yes, so let's start. Those who have their laptops, you can open the folder, or if you have your phone, you can follow as I explain some of the approach that I use, right? But before we continue, I left out one thing. So I don't know, those who here does IoT? Oh, great. So for those who do IoT stuff, right, you can also deploy your models in a certain way. There's this thing called edge computing, right? So those, I'll give you an example. So let's say you want to find a way to predict power outages in your locality, right? Or let's use this area, right? And maybe the government through ECT will give you the permission to be able to get the data from prepaid meters, right? So once you do your development, you train, test, you train, evaluate, you test, then you save the model and you want to embed them in these machines. There's a way to go about it, but for this tutorial, we will not cover that part, but I want to mention that it's also possible, but there's a strange way that we have to go about it. But if you get this what you are come to do is just the basis for however or whichever way you want to train your model based on your certain needs, right? So that was one thing I just wanted to mention before I forget. So let's continue with it. So as I said, before you can be able to train your model, right, you should be able to know some basics of ML. Maybe you've trained your own model before, you should be able to understand what I'm put here. So first things first, you just import your libraries, and then you load the data. So if you want access to the data, you can see that there is a link to download the data sets. There's some cargo tools. So when you click on that link, it will take you to cargo. Oh, I've really paid your license. So it's on my drive. But you can find these data sets on cargo, right? So that you can be able to continue with what I have here. So when you download the data sets, so please do not forget to click this link to download the data sets. Okay. So once you do that, you load the data sets, then you be able to check the dimension of the train and test data. So since you are dealing with database, the model that I use will have to know the size of some of the images that you put on the data set, right? And they are all in CSV. Yeah. So I'll skip. Yes, so once you get here, this implementation that I need to be able to visualize and there's a single image, and you will see that it has labeled it as 2. When you use certain algorithms, or maybe you have certain data set that will also say that you think that, oh, this is 2, but it will say that it's 4 or maybe it's 7. You understand? There's a way to go about it, but I don't know if there was a session on ML stuff. But if you want to understand certain, you can also reach out or even see me after this session so that I can explain certain things. But for this collab, I've made things like self-explanatory, so you should be able to understand what I am trying to do. So we'll skip to, because of time, we'll skip to the deployment part. So these are kind of visualizations for multiple images. Based the same data set that I uploaded. And then this part is just to train the model, and then give a summary of the parameters. Based on the parameters, to give a summary of how the model performs and stuff. And then you get the last step for those who have trained their models before. To be able to visualize that, you can use a confusion matrix to get an understanding of how your model behaves based on the data set that you use. And so once you have that, you then save the model. So remember the name that I'll put here. We will need it a lot. We need it a lot in deploying a model, right? So we'll come to the next part, which is to build and deploy a simple REST API that I wrote with fast API. So I'll open my page. Wait, I'm coming. Let me try to enlarge the. Okay, so unfortunately, I'm not seeing where I can be able to enlarge this, but we'll manage with the code app like that. When there's a need to show you something, I'll just switch to the code base. So yes, let's continue. I was trying to open Python so that you can see the code that I wrote, but I have the code, but I want to run certain things for you to see for yourself, but it's not working. Because if I bring it here, just you will not see anything. So I'll just try to do it in my mind to make you understand what is going on here. So as I said, once you save the model, right, you should either be in .keras or what's in the other file format for saving a model. So once that is done, you can use any, as I said in the earlier presentation, I said you can use any framework of your choice. But for me, if I'm deploying a model, I always use Fast API because when you go to their documentation, they say that it is fast. If you ask me why it is, I don't know. It's in their documentation. So that is the reason I use Fast API. So there is another reason that I use Fast API is that unlike at the other frameworks like Node. So here you see that I'm using Go, but there is something that Go can do that Fast API can do better. So the reason I'm saying this is it's able to handle lots of requests like in seconds. You know, those who have written Go before, people use Go because of performance, right? They don't want, I don't know why they still have it, the Python language. I don't know why. Me myself, I don't know. So if you don't want to save if you don't want Wahala, because Go, their syntax it's okay, but it's kind of confusing. So in order to put yourself onto, just use Fast API. You've learned Python. So it's just a framework that you have to be familiar with by practicing some few few projects with Fast API. You'll be good to go. So anytime you want to deploy a model, depending on how many models that you want to use to write your APIs, make sure that it's always in this format. For me, I'll say it's a convention. It's something that you have to use. You don't say that yes, I'm doing my own thing, so I'll do things different way. when you start running the application, that's where you realize that you need to follow convention sometimes. So this is the convention that you have to use. So when you create your fast API, the project, then you just create the app, you add the requirements. So the requirement of TXT, I'll actually show it to you here. So when your requirement of TXT can be more than this, but for tutorial purposes, I've just limited it to these are the needed packages that you need to deploy a simple model. So no stress at all. Then, so once you are done, those who say they know how to write APIs, you should be able to understand what I'm trying to do here. So what I'm trying to do is that I initialize my fast API application, and then you allow CORS, which is a cross-origin resource sharing. So for those who don't understand or those who don't know CORS, it's just a way to make sure that any other person who wants to access your application gets blocked, right? Don't access the resources that are in your application. And so we want to also make sure that you isolate some of the URLs that are always entering your application. So that's like a simple meaning I can give to you about CORS. So in this case, it's localhost 3000, but I can also do it this way. Immediately I bring this star, it means anybody can access the application without any restriction. You understand? But immediately I bring this localhost 3000. If I want to add any other origins, I can do so. But it's like apart from this one, any other person cannot access this application, this API that I've written. You understand? So that's like a simple thing I can say about CORS. Then this. So before you write your APIs, you should note that you have to load the model that you trained on. So what I mean by your model is that once you save the model that you trained on it, it's supposed to be in a file format. So you have to write a function to be able to load that file for you to be able to use so I want to repeat it. So before you write any API, any endpoint, any API, you have to load the model. So you need to write a function for that, and that's what I have done here. And when we hey, I have 5 minutes. Hey, I've only done 60%. Don't worry. So, say I have 5 minutes, so I'll just take you through the most important parts, right? So, the next thing is you have to, that's where you, so the next thing is to write your API. So, this is a post request to be able to reprocess the image, and then whenever I hit that request, it should be able to load the model that I wrote the function in the beginning, reprocess it, and give me its results, and then it will return a response to you in a JSON format. when you are testing the API. And so before I came in, Anthony was mentioning something about logging. Please when you're writing API, logging is very important. You need to make sure that you're writing logs so that when you're having issues, at least if you cannot figure out what is happening in the code that you wrote or what Claude or ChatGPT gave you, you can be able to know what is happening through the logs that you added in those endpoint APIs that you've written. So the next thing is you see the image I pushed to Docker Hub. Yeah, I created it about a year ago. And it'll still be there because for tutorial stage. So once you reach this stage, it means that you technically deployed a model to the Docker. The rest is choose any cloud platform of your choice, and then you take it from there. So I'll end here, but for those who still want to use AWS to deploy this repo, what you have to do is you go to you use the EC2 instance, and then if you don't want to do the manual configuration, there's something called what's the name? Yeah, there's something called Fargate. So what Fargate does is that it does everything for you. So you just need to push this one. Where's there's supposed to be a link here. So you just push this using this command here into the EC2 instance using Fargate. It will just load it, do everything for you, and run the instance for you without you managing anything behind the scenes. But bear in mind, once it gets to its peak, your cost increases, and so you should note that. Okay.